Hey, deep divers. Ready to explore some microbiology with me today? We'll be taking a look at ringworm. You might think you know all about it, but stick with us. You might be surprised what you learn. We'll link the OpenStax microbiology textbook in the description in case you want to follow along. We'll be going through a fictional case based on this textbook. So let's imagine a 7-year-old named Sarah. She comes home from school one day, and she has this really itchy spot on her arm. Turns out, it's ringworm. But how do you even get ringworm? And is it really a worm like the name suggests? How do doctors even figure out how to treat something like this?
Yeah, so first of all, we have to address that misconception that it's a worm. It's not actually a worm.
Okay, phew. That's a relief for Sarah. But why is it called ringworm then?
Well, it gets its name from how it looks. Ringworm usually appears as this red circular rash, and the edges are raised, so it can look like there's something burrowing under the skin. But instead of a worm, it's actually a fungus that has decided to make its home in the outer layers of Sarah's skin.
A fungus? Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so like those mushrooms that pop up after it rains.
Not exactly. Those mushrooms you see are just the fruiting bodies of certain fungi. It's like the tip of the iceberg, if you will. Ringworm is caused by a different type of fungus that lives in a more hidden world. Imagine it more like a network of tiny threads spreading beneath the surface.
So then how did Sarah even end up with this fungus on her? Was she playing in the dirt or something?
It's much easier to pick up ringworm than you might think. These fungi just love warm, moist environments, and they can actually spread through direct contact with someone who's infected or even through contaminated objects. Think about it. Sarah probably touches a lot of things at school. Desks, toys, maybe even the wrestling mats in gym class.
Oh yeah, for sure. Schools are basically just giant petri dishes.
You could say that. And kids are even more prone to ringworm than adults. They're constantly touching each other and everything around them. And they might not be the best at washing their hands all the time either.
Right. Okay, so let's paint a picture here. Sarah's mom is freaking out. She sees this rash and thinks it's a worm under her daughter's skin. So she rushes Sarah to the doctor. What happens next?
So the doctor's going to examine the rash really carefully. They might even use a Wood's lamp. It emits UV light, and some types of ringworm will glow when you shine this light on them. But to be completely sure, they'll take a skin scraping and take a look at it under a microscope.
Wow, that's so high tech. So what are they even looking for under the microscope? How can you tell it's a fungus and not a worm?
Well, that's where we get into the world of cell structure. When you look under the microscope, you can see that the ringworm has cell walls. These are rigid structures that surround the cell. And animal cells, like the cells that make up worms, don't have cell walls. It's one of the main differences between fungi and animals.
So even under a microscope, you can tell it's not a worm because of the cell walls. That's so cool. So what happens next? Does the doctor give Sarah some strong anti-worm medication?
Not quite. Remember, we're dealing with a fungus here, so more likely than not, the doctor will prescribe some kind of antifungal cream.
Okay, that makes more sense. But what if that cream doesn't work? Is Sarah just going to be itchy forever?
No, not at all. Remember how we said ringworm is caused by a fungus? Well, it turns out there isn't just one kind of ringworm fungus. There are actually several different species of fungi that can cause ringworm.
Wait, really? So there's not just one type of ringworm fungus. This is way more complicated than I thought.
It's true. To figure out exactly what kind of fungus is causing Sarah's ringworm, the doctor might take a sample of it and grow it in a lab. They use something called Saborod's agar. It's basically a special food source that helps the fungi grow.
So it's like a buffet for fungi.
Exactly. And just like how people have different preferences for food, different types of fungi will grow in different ways on the agar. Some might have a smooth texture, while others are fluffy or granular. They can even have different colors. In Sarah's case, the fungus grew with this kind of granular texture, and it was pale pink on the top and red on the underside. All of that points to a specific type of ringworm fungus called Trichophyton rubrum.
Trichophyton rubrum. Sounds like Harry Potter spell. But that is so interesting. It's like a whole detective story is playing out under the microscope.
Absolutely. And by figuring out exactly what kind of fungus is causing the ringworm, doctors can make sure they pick the most effective treatment. And they can send that ringworm packing.
Wow, I had no idea there was so much to ringworm. This is incredible.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to ringworm.
I can't wait. But we'll have to save it for next time. We're out of time for today, but we'll be back soon for part 2 of our ringworm deep dive. All right, so we're back for more ringworm fun. Before the break, we were talking about how there are actually multiple types of ringworm fungi that can cause all this trouble. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm curious what these other ringworm fungi are all about.
Definitely. So you remember how we were talking about Sarah's ringworm being caused by Trichophyton rubrum? Well, there are 2 other really common types of ringworm fungi. We've got Microsporum canis and Epidermophyton flacosum. They're all in the same fungal family, but they all have their own favorite spots to hang out, and they cause trouble in different ways.
So like a fungal family reunion, but not the good kind. Tell me more about these other ringworm fungi. What makes them different?
Okay, well, let's start with Microsporum canis. This fungus loves to hang out on our furry friends, cats and dogs. It's one of the most common causes of ringworm in animals, and it's really easy for it to spread to humans through direct contact. So if Sarah was playing with her pet, cat, or dog, maybe cuddling with them, that could be how she got the ringworm.
Oh, so that's why they always tell you to wash your hands after your pet animal. Makes sense. So if that fungus likes to live on pets, what about Epidermophyton flacosum? Where does that one like to hang out?
This one's a little bit different. It really likes moisture. It loves warm, damp environments like sweaty shoes, locker rooms, places like that, even swimming pools. It's actually the fungus that causes athletes' foot and jock itch.
Oh gosh, that sounds awful. So we've got Trichophyton rubrum, which is kind of an all-around ringworm offender, and Microsporum canis, which likes pets, and then this Epidermophyton flacosum, which likes moisture. It's like they've got all their bases covered.
Pretty much. And just like they prefer different places to live, they also cause slightly different types of ringworm infections. So Microsporum canis tends to cause ringworm on the scalp and skin, and it can sometimes be more itchy and inflamed than Trichophyton rubrum.
So if you have a ringworm rash that's really red and angry, it might be from your pet.
Exactly. And then Epidermophyton flacosum. Since it loves moisture so much, it usually causes infections between the toes or in the groin area, athlete's foot and jock itch.
Ugh. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So back to Sarah. She's got Trichophyton rubrum, and the doctor gave her an antifungal cream. But what if that cream doesn't work? Is there a plan B?
Yeah, of course. Usually the antifungal cream works, but sometimes it doesn't. If the cream isn't working after a week or two, the doctor might take another skin scraping and try to grow the fungus in the lab. That way they can figure out exactly what kind of a fungus it is, and they can see if there's a different medication that might work better.
So it's like testing out different weapons to see which one will defeat the fungus.
Basically. By figuring out which antifungal medication works best against that specific fungus, the doctor can make sure that the treatment works and gets rid of the ringworm for good.
That's great to hear. But in the meantime, while Sarah's waiting for that cream to work, is there anything she can do at home to help with the itching?
There are a few things that might help. It's really important to keep the area clean and dry. You can also try putting a cool compress on the rash to help with the inflammation and itching. Sometimes over-the-counter anti-itch creams can help too, like calamine lotion or hydrocortisone.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Hopefully all of that will help Sarah feel better. And hopefully the antifungal cream will work and she can get back to her normal life without the itching.
It should. And even though Sarah's case is fictional, it really shows us why it's so important to take ringworm seriously. It's not just a little annoyance. It's a real infection, and you need to treat it properly so it doesn't spread and cause more problems.
Definitely. So what's next? What else do we need to know about ringworm?
Well, now that we know all about what causes ringworm and how to treat it, let's talk about how to prevent it.
All right, so we know what causes ringworm.
Yeah.
We know how to treat it. But how do we prevent it in the first place? I mean, nobody wants to deal with this itchy rash, right?
Exactly. Prevention is key, especially when it comes to fungi, like we've been talking about. The good news is there are some really simple things you can do to avoid ringworm.
Okay, so spill the beans.
Yeah.
What's the secret?
Well, a lot of it comes down to basic hygiene and just being aware of your surroundings. So first things first, wash your hands. A lot. Seriously. You wouldn't believe how many surfaces you touch throughout the day that could have ringworm fungi on them. Doorknobs, shopping carts, gym equipment, all of that. It's so easy for those fungi to end up on your hands. And then they can transfer to your skin if you touch your face or your arm or whatever. So yeah, washing your hands often, especially after you've been out in public or if you've touched any animals, that's super important.
So it's all about being a little bit of a germaphobe?
Not necessarily. You don't have to go crazy. But yeah, being mindful of your hand hygiene is super important. And another thing is keeping your skin clean and dry. Remember how we talked about how these fungi love warm, moist environments? Well, if you hop out of the shower and you don't dry off completely, especially in places like your groin or your feet or under your arms, that's basically an open invitation for ringworm.
Got it. Noted. What about like sharing sports equipment or wrestling mats? That's not really something you can avoid. Is there anything you can do to protect yourself in those situations?
Yeah, for sure. It's all about disinfecting shared equipment. Those surfaces can have all sorts of germs on them, including ringworm fungi. So give it a quick wipe with some antifungal spray. That can really help stop the spread.
Breaking the chain of transmission? Love it.
Yeah.
So wash your hands. Dry off really well.
Yeah.
And disinfect anything you share. Okay, what else?
Oh, one more thing. Try not to walk around barefoot in public places. You know those locker rooms and shower stalls at the gym or the pool? They're pretty much breeding grounds for fungi, especially that Epidermophyton flocosum. We were talking about the one that causes athlete's foot. Just throw on some flip-flops and you'll be good to go.
Good advice.
Yeah.
So let's say we do all that, but we still end up with ringworm. What should we do?
No worries. It happens. The most important thing is to catch it early. If you see a rash that's red and circular and has that raised edge, go see your doctor. They can tell you for sure if it's ringworm and what you need to do to get rid of it.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into ringworm. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing how much there is to know about this common condition.
Definitely. Well, huge thanks to you for sharing all your knowledge with us and to all of our listeners out there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ringworm. Remember, knowledge is power. And now you're equipped to tackle ringworm head-on.
And if you want to learn even more about the world of microbes, be sure to check out that OpenStax microbiology textbook. We linked it in the description. It's full of really cool information about all sorts of tiny organisms that can impact our lives.
All right, until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.